Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Luffy is trained by Kaido, and got Harem, movie 7, subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I do not own this fanfic, and also make sure to check out the author of this fanfic, DOUBLEM7, and support him for writing this awesome fanfic. Link is in the description. Let's begin this story. On the first week of his division's journey, Arlong received a call from Captain, one of which was of grim nature. Luffy said, his tone was that of someone who lost something. Yes Captain, everything okay? Arlong was immediately worried. He could see the hurt in his captain's eyes. Mirror calls were the best communication device ever. In Ryuga Kingdom, Kunitohin just gave me a call not too long ago. This happened a week before we arrived in Dressrosa. Prince Fukabashi was murdered in cold blood by a member of Neptune's army, Hody Jones. He was banished from Fishman Island. Prince Fukabashi was never someone I got along with, but I respected the hell out of him. There was a long pause, with Luffy letting Arlong digest the news. Arlong remembered the time that the prince would travel from the comfort of his palace, in order to visit the different districts of Ryuga Kingdom. He made sure to wear a disguise in order to not be treated any differently than a normal citizen. He will always help where he can, be it an older person needing help carrying their items for sale, or a young orphan child wanting someone to play catch with them. He was just there for his people, without the people knowing it was him. Though he never liked him when he intruded with Sun Pirate's business, he respected him. As several minutes passed, Luffy finally spoke up. His group of radicals were arrested. They are all being held for trial. I'll take care of it, Captain. Good. With that, Arlong exited his room, where Burly and Jem were talking amongst themselves in the main deck. Everything okay? Burly noticed the grim expression within his lover's face. Their destination has become a little more personal. 2 weeks total was the time it took for Arlong to transverse the distance from Dressrosa to Fishman Island. More specifically, Ryuga Kingdom. The mood around the palace was very grim. When Arlong and company arrived, everyone tried to be strong, but they were obviously hurt. It took some time to arrive at King Neptune's throne room, where the king was visibly depressed. His wife by his side, both of which were trying their best to comfort each other. It had been weeks since the death of the prince, and yet, grief does not go away in less than a month. Arlong stepped forward, gathering the attention of the royal couple. Burly and Jem were each wearing a bubble over their head, so that they could breathe underwater. King Neptune, Kunitohin, I will take care of it. What do you mean by this, Arlong? King Neptune wiped a tear that fell from his eyes. He was visibly weak, and is currently not fit to rule. I will take care of the radicals within Hody's group. I will perform the trial in your family's honor, so that you may both rest. The people will understand why I am doing this. They love and respect Captain Nijiwar. We must show unity, Arlong. We have to be there. Kunitohin replied, though her voice was weak. Not a day has gone by without the event that transpired on the assassination day. The blood of her own flowing in her hands, his life escaping from his eyes was stuff of nightmares, not something any mother should go through. I insist, please rest your royalty. Arlong was firm in his statement, whereas in normal circumstances, this would be viewed as insulting. Not today. Arlong, thank you. To this the royal couple retreated to their room, in order to rest. Arlong swiftly turned to walk out of the throne room, his company joining him. Outside of the palace were some of the members of the Sun Pirates, immediately coming as soon as they learned Arlong had returned. Hello stranger, unfortunate times to reunite. The first Agradin was Hatchin. The six-limbed octopus fishman gave Arlong a firm embrace, to which the saw shark fishman returned. The next Agradin was Kurubi, then Chu. Finally there was Jinbei, Aladdin, and Fisher Tiger. The royal family has retreated to rest for the day. A tear escaped his eye, which he quickly wiped away. I was tasked with sentencing the guilty accomplices, so please summon them immediately to the arena. Nobody questioned Arlong, as before joining the Strawats, he was a respectable fisherman, although more of an extreme human hater. Chu and Hatchin ran to the holding cell, where they gathered the members of the failed crew to bring to the arena. There were maybe 50 of them, all of which agreed with Hody's ideology, and attempted to help him assassinate the queen. If it were up to them, there would be no union with the humans and fisherman population. So the group of radicals were quick to join Hody's extreme views. Arlong took his saw sword, walking slowly to the middle of the arena and opening his arms. Burly and Jem sat at the viewing area, where they were joined by the rest of the Sun Pirates. Burly was trembling in her feet as she knew what Arlong was going to do. If you want to stop the fisherman population from moving to the surface, fucking do it then. Kill me, and if you do, with the Sun Pirates as witness, Fishman Island will never join the surface world. His anger was seething. He looked around to the 50 radicals who looked around at each other, none of which moved. Funny tough guy, you have a weapon, we don't, exclaimed a cookie-cutter shark fisherman, one of Hody's inner circle members, Daruma. Arlong threw his sword towards Jinbei, who caught it with ease. He then raised his fist, looking round once more. This is not good. I can feel it. Zio, another member of Hody's inner circle, commented. He was a wobbegong shark and tall and thin in nature. Fuck it, I don't give a fuck if it's true, we're gonna beat the shit out of him. Go. Attack man. Dasam, a large hammerhead fisherman, was the second in command when Body was not available. He rallied all members of the prisoners to attack. They were fighting for their ideology and their freedom. Nothing makes a man stronger than that. Arlong took the first wave with ease. He caught one man with a front face kick, then he twisted his ankles to deliver a roundhouse kick to 3 others. He landed on both feet when Ikaru's Much met him, delivering a series of punches with his many limbs. Instead of succumbing to the flurry of strikes, Arlong provided him with a swift chop to the throat, temporarily blocking the airway for Ikaru's Much. The multi-limbed man stumbled backwards, giving way to another series of 10 fishermen, who were easily disposed of by Arlong. Daruma attempted to strike from underground, but Arlong stopped his forehead before even leaving the ground. The stomp caused cracks on the ground. Komin, you want to kill people for wanting unity. How Arlong let his anger out on the radicals. Another 5 were tossed through the arena wall. Haizu attempted to trap Arlong by grabbing him with his legs, but Arlong pulled forward, tossing the fisherman overhead and slamming him to the ground. In a matter of 15 minutes, the remaining members who could still fight were Dawson, Zio, and Ikaru's Much, each looking at each other, as if to tell the other to go first. Fucking hell, there are 3 of us and one of him. Go Zio, exclaimed Dawson. You go, he just disposed of our entire fighting force. This guy is not fucking around. I never wanted any of this, responded Zio, though this pissed off Dawson, who pulled out a shank from his back pocket, the coil he had been sharpening for the past 3 weeks. Instead of using it for Arlong, he instead attempted to stab Zio. You coward. Though his coil shank never reached Zero as Arlong knocked him out on time. This left Zero and Ikaru's Much, both of which fell on both knees. We never liked those guys, we just had nowhere to go, exclaimed Ikaru's Much. He grew up with a bunch in the poor fisherman district, but really, he never agreed with their viewpoint. He just sort of went with it in fear of becoming an outcast. Yeah. Please don't hurt us. Followed by Zio. We'll prove ourselves, swear, exclaimed Ikaru's Much. Arlong looked at them, reading them, but instead of falling into his anger, he let it go. He could have killed them, but they weren't the one to blame. It was Hody. Something was strange. Time seemed to have slowed. Their eyes widened, surprised at something from behind him. What the hell was it? Ikaru's Much ran forward, with Zio following after. So they weren't done after all. They were just feigning defeat, but he didn't drop his guard. Kicked Ikaru's Much in the face and grabbed Zio by the throat. No. Behind you, exclaimed Zio as he choked in the grip of Arlong. The first thing he saw was the balcony where the Sun Pirates, Bully, and Gem were supposed to be. But the Sun Pirates were gone, zooming past him. Something was happening behind him. His body finally forced itself to look. A massive kraken descended from the sky, causing massive destruction in the nearby proximity. Lucky Laboon was nearby, as the massive whale headbutted the kraken. Though it wasn't enough, as it took the entire effort of the Sun Pirates to subdue the kraken. Jahahaha. The laughter was so sinister it made Arlong whip his head around. His hands immediately dropped Zio, who gasped for air. In the area where Gem and Bully were, a sinister fisherman emerged from behind them. Arlong deduced that he probably used the kraken as a distraction. The fucking saw, human-loving bitch. The man behind Bully and Gem was Hody. His hands were now replaced by blades. Will you make it in time to save your precious humans? Hody stabbed both Gem and Bully through their abdomen, and immediately pulled it out, blood spewing from the fresh wound. Hody then took his blade and popped the bubble that helped the humans breathe underwater. His brain was in overdrive, as he could not even utter a word. Hody immediately left the proximity to keep Arlong distracted. The Sun Pirates were with the kraken. Arlong had to deal with his people, and the royal family were long ready to be killed by Hody. Arlong swam as fast as he could, grabbing both Bully and Gem and shooting upward. He did not think, he just acted, and the only way he could help them breathe was to go up. Fishman Island was 10,000 meters underwater. It would take him 6 minutes to get them to the surface at his maximum speed. It would take him 1/3 of the time if he only had to carry one person. No, he wasn't going to choose, because the choice was obvious. But would he really kill his own to save another? Suddenly, 2 figures were zooming by his side. It was Zero and Ikaru's Much. Arlong, let us take care of your humans. We know where they can receive air, exclaimed Zio. There is an air pocket that we know, about 60 seconds from here. You must save the royal family, added Ikaru's Much. How can I trust you? Exclaimed Arlong, continuing to pull his crew upward. I can't say, but you're gonna have to, Zio replied, grabbing Gem. Much did the same for Bully, where Arlong hesitated in giving her to an enemy. She's going to die if you don't let go. Finally he did, trusting 2 enemies to save his crew. Tears flowed from his eyes at the thought of their death, but alas, he had to act quickly, switching his direction straight down to Ryuga Palace. Hody crashed through the front door of the palace, making quick work of the palace guards. He trained all these weaklings. He knew the in and out of the palace. He swam his way through the palace, immediately falling in front of the royal resting place. Jahaha King Neptune, Queen Atohim. I have come to finish what I started. Hody then barged through the door, revealing Queen Atohim behind her husband. Neptune grasped his trident tightly. Death is in your window, human lovers. But Hody never got a chance to enter the royal palace as a fist went right through his chest. It was instantaneous, as Hody fell on the marble tiles, his blood flowing through the floor. The man who killed Hody was none other than Arlong, who got there one time. But he had no time to hang out, as Broly and Jem were with the enemy. Babe. A weak voice called on his mirror communication device. It was Broly and her voice was very weak. We're okay, they saved us. Ico's Much was holding them up, with their head above the air pocket. Sorry boss, I was so useless underwater, said Jem, who was breathing hard to catch his breath. They still had an open wound that continued to let out blood. Zio returned with a healing herb found only at the midstream underwater. He then proceeded to patch the wound of Broly and Jem. You freaking fruit users. You scared me to death. Tears streamed from the eyes of Arlong the Saw, as he could relax slightly. He collapsed on the ground and cherished the voice of his people. Thank you both, I owe you. Just pardon and allow us to join you, exclaimed Icarus Much. Yeah, I agree. Zio commented as he continued to address the wound of both injured people. Arlong, I will send an escort to the midstream air pocket. I will also make sure that they both receive new bubbles so they can join us, King Neptune said as he went to order one of the surviving palace guards. No moment was missing from the time it took Arlong to kill Hody to the time that the Sun Pyre subdued the Kraken in the same amount of time, and all was finally well. Everyone hailed him as the hero as he walked to the hospital ward, where Broly and Jem were resting from their wounds. Arlong dropped by Jem to check up on him. He was doing well. So he went to Broly after. Hey babe. Arlong said as she lay in bed. Her wounds were dressed and she was now in recovery. Hi. Did you get it out of your system now? Asked Broly. She let him do what he wanted, but he lost sight of who he was in the moment of anger. Sorry, I should have been more rational. And now I've put you at risk, especially knowing that you can't breathe underwater. I should have been more careful. Well, what was going on? It seemed very personal. Yeah, Prince Fukabashi was the pinnacle of the community. He is the reason many of the district's children have grown up to become successful. Hody just reminded me of myself. I could have been like that if Captain never found me. Remember this babe? I was with Mama for a long time, and she did horrible things to people, nations, just to satiate her hunger, and we just let it happen because she's our mother. She grabbed his face and caressed it. Now is what matters, and what we do with the opportunity that Captain has given us. So you are not Hody, you will never be Hody. Got it. Yes ma'am. Arlong responded with a smile. But there is one thing we need to discuss. Yes? She knew what this was. With today's event, I think it would be best to move you and Jem to a different division. I went over it with Lucci and he said he'll take you. Your infiltration abilities are great for his division. Then I talked to Burke who will take Jem as his division will be able to use an explosion expert. Me and Captain have discussed my specialization and its deep sea exploration, and after today I can't put you at risk. I can't. Babe, stop explaining. I understand. I don't like it, but I understand now. Get out of here. There are people that want to meet with you. Thank you for understanding. Arlong planted a long kiss on her lips before exiting, giving her a smile before leaving. As Arlong was long gone, Broly couldn't help but break into tears. For no longer will she join in on his adventure. Yet she knew that they will be as strong as ever, for true love is not defined by distance never. Arlong was brought to the grand hall within the palace. It was there he found the entire force of the Sun Pirates, the royal family, and the two saviors of his people. Ah, glad of you to join, called King Neptune. He was guided to a seat right next to Fisher Tiger, which he gladly took. The hall was massive, and yet the Sun Pirates were large in numbers, and therefore some elected to stand. Alright, now that everyone is here I have an important announcement. Fisher Tiger began. He was getting older and it was a matter of time before he did what he was going to do. With the unfortunate death of Prince Fukabashi, the head of Neptune's army is currently vacant. We Sun Pirates have a duty for our nation as we only became pirates to protect our country. Whitebeard was the man to claim our land for protection first, but his influence has grown noticeably weaker in a matter of a year. Why that is, nobody knows. So what I am going to do is officially disband the Sun Pirates, as I will now become head of command of Neptune's, and are all free to choose where you go. We are joining the Neptune army as well. The pirate life was fun, but it's time to protect our nation. This was from one of the older fishermen, and a chorus of agreement came from the majority of the now former Sun Pirates. This shocked Arlong, although no one seemed to be surprised. Is this not surprising? Arlong, with the Sun Pirates disbanded, we are seeking employment for a crew. Jinbei grabbed him by the shoulder. Then a realization hit Arlong. They disbanded so that Whitebeard can't start a war, because if he learned that the Sun Pirates continued to operate under the Strowats, then a war would surely ensue. Got any openings? Aladdin asked. They planned this so well. Arlong looked around at many members of the Sun Pirates. Some were older, some were frail, and yet they bleed pirate life. Though Arlong knew that Fishman Island would need some of that toughness. Yeah, Arlong, help us out, Hatchin said with a happy smile. Karubi nodded and Shu gave a thumbs up. Then Echo's Much and Zio stepped forward. Our adventures can't end here, so if you will, we can join you as well. Arlong was overwhelmed to say the least. But to put icing on top with everything that happened, King Neptune swung to him. Arlong, you have made this country proud. He then removed a trident that clinged on his back. This is my son's golden trident. He then proceeded to hand it to Arlong. He deserved to wield the saw of the Straw Rats. And he took the golden trident, feeling a hidden power within it as soon as he touched it. Something for later. But for now he had to answer the people's request. His whole purpose of going to Fishman Island was to gauge whether the Sun Pirates would join them, and now he succeeded without really asking. All of you who wish to join, welcome to the Straw Rat Grand Armada 4th Division. To this the room cheered. In all his life, Arlong never thought he would be in this position. The pride of Fishman Island, how times have changed. He held his new golden trident with a massive smile on his face. Funny enough, the Kraken became close friends with Laboon, and the two massive creatures went out on their own adventures. Arlong decided to stay another 2 weeks in Ryuga Kingdom, in order to gauge everyone's skill level. Others who wanted to join were put to trial. Even those who were formerly with Hody were given a chance. Lee and Jem were brought into the loop of what was happening, and ultimately were very happy for their former captain. They understood why they were transferred, as each division is having more and more of an identity. The citizens of Ryuga Kingdom insist on giving him things, but instead he told them to give it to the people. There are more who deserve it more than him. Thus this brings us to the end of exactly 1 month since Arlong has transversed the sea from Dressrosa to Fishman Island. He was noticeably buff for TK, the delight of Burlee, as training with some of the most powerful fishermen has pushed him to beyond his limits. But now it was time to go meet everyone in Water 7. Everyone ready? Arlong rode on the back of Laboon, where Jinbei was asked to ride the Kraken in a similar manner. The rest of the newly reformed 4th Division were on the ship provided by King Riku. Everyone cheered at his question, indicating that they were indeed ready. Let's go. And the 4th Division were on their way to meet their new commander, Straw Rat Luffy. I'm so happy that Arlong found his true love. Aladdin and Burlee were having a conversation as they traveled. Me too. I hope my relationship turns out like you too. Oh yeah, who are you dating? Oh gosh, I met her at a random island. She was so amazing and beautiful. Oh my, spill it. Demanded Burlee, who was excited to hear who it was. We have been sending letters to each other. Oh, just read this. Do you think it's too much? Aladdin handed her a letter he had been writing to his love interest. Burlee read the letter with a massive smile on her face, although, after the heading, her smile immediately turned to shock. You have been talking to Sister Praline. Water 7 present time, and here is our ship, the Great White. Arlong had brought Katakuri to look at his ship. His division arrived 2 weeks earlier than Katakuri's group, so they had plenty of time to settle down. As far as the Great White, the ship was massive, with a giant head of a shark for its headpiece. There was no sail, as it took the form of an actual shark, complete with a tail and fins. Wow. Yeah, isn't it? Look, when it's done, my entire division are all fishermen, and so I will be responsible for deep-sea excavation. My ship will also be able to go underwater. This is nice, Arlong. And as far as your division? Asked the first commander. I am captain, of course. Then I have Jinbei as my right hand, Aladdin as my left. Then different duties for Chu, Hachin, Iko as much, Kurobi, and Zio. Plus I have 2 titans in Kraken and Laboon. I'm not hearing where my sister is in all this. That's the thing, bro. She will move divisions and join the 3rd division. Why is this? She almost died on Fishman Island, and I can't bring her into that kind of danger. I told you to take care of her. This is me taking care of her. Then the two just stared at each other for some time. Fine. You are both grown to make your own decisions. Katakuri then began to walk away. I'll see you around. He was on his way to meet with Guild when he ran into Brook. Ah, Katakuri, it's been a while. How are you, Brook? I'm well, though I hope they have enough wood for our new recruits. What do you mean? Then a massive shadow from a massive person was cast over them. Katakuri looked up and finally understood what Brook meant. Ah. Hey Brook, where do you want us to go again? Another set of new figures arrived. There were several of them and they looked like business. Ah, Captain, I want to meet you guys. Here, let's go. Brook led the way. See you around, Katakuri. Yo, Brook, see you around. Katakuri looked at them as they disappeared in the distance. Brook really did have an amazing adventure. Then several minutes passed before Lucci found him. Oh, Katakuri, can't talk right now, I got to head to a meeting. Lucci began to sprint but was stopped by Katakuri's voice. Hey Lucci. Katakuri called. Once he got his attention, he said, I heard of the transfer to take care of my sister. Of course I will. Lucci said with a thumbs up. She'll help set the new recruits straight. How many new recruits? Somewhere in Water 7. Alright, take care, Sugar. Love you always. Monet had just completed her call with Sugar when Baccarat found her. She changed her attire into a cute yellow sundress, one of which flew gracefully with the air. Baccarat still wore her tight red dress, one where her lovely figure was tightly hugged in all the right areas. Hey there. She was trying her hardest to get acclimated, but it was a lot. There were a lot of people. Oh hi Baccarat. Monet gave her a ha. In the month they spent traveling to Water 7, the two have gotten close. This as she ducked down as a worker was passing by with a massive wood over his shoulder. I know a lot. Monet chuckled as she helped Baccarat up. I thought the guild was untouchable, but your fighting force is so massive that there's no way your captain is not yet an emperor. Our captain, Baccarat. And no, he is not. At least not that I know of. His biggest move was Dressrosa. The Marine will definitely not like the defeat of another one of their warlords. I understand he was your former employer. Yeah, I'm with the Strowats now. She then had a bright idea. I have an idea, you should meet Captain, that way we can get you assigned to a division. He did say he would be in one of the suites around the Central Plaza. You really like him. Wait, I thought I was staying with Guild in his new division. Well, everyone has a group they belong to. The captain is really good at placing people in the correct division. Well, the commanders are also great at selecting their people, but I want you to meet Captain, so let's go. Akira took note of how giddy she was, though she did not press the issue. The two beautiful ladies walked animatedly to where they knew the captain was. They entered the building and found the captain's quarter. Your name, please. BZZZ. There was a robotic receptionist in the front desk. Monet. Yes, Sir Mujiwara added you to his list. Room 4377. The iron gate behind the receptionist opened, letting them through. Brook's adventure was one of simple nature. Travel to Little Garden, attempt to recruit two living legends named Georgie and Brocky, and travel to Water 7. Though he did not take into account that there were going to be other people on the island, well, not people, more so beings. The first thing he and Bentham noticed were the other ships, anchored several miles away from them. The ship flew a pirate flag that he could not make out. Regardless, Brook and Bentham pressed on. For such massive giants, they were really hard to find. Director, movement around us. Bentham noticed the rustling of leaves all around them, maybe 3 locations. I've noticed. Brook stood up immediately, drawing his blade. Whoever you are, present yourself immediately for a lighter repercussion. More rustling of the leaves occurred, though nothing stepped out. Brook looked at Bentham, who understood and got up immediately himself. If you wish to engage, then we are happy to comply. Brook began to walk towards the noise, but instead of finding people, he found a baby dinosaur, one bigger than himself. It had caught itself tangled in some vines. Oh, little one, let me assist you. Brook took his blade and swung it against the vines. Go now, creature, rejoin your family. The creature gave him a happy coo before running back to his family. Impressive skeleton, Sen. The creature emerged from the guise of darkness. A polar bear mink with stylish sunglasses. He had a cutlass on his back and he was a cool-looking dude. Hands up, this doesn't need to get ugly. Bentham got behind the polar bear mink with a knife on his throat. You're right, it doesn't need to. Now another mink appeared beside Bentham, holding his hands in front of the blade which was held in the throat of the polar bear. This mink was a lion mink with thin, stylish shades, and he looked like he meant business. Everyone relax, we don't need all of this hostility. Who are you and what are you doing in Little Garden? This time it was a bigger feline mink, spotted like a jaguar. He seemed to be their leader, and he too emitted a powerful presence about him. We are members of the Strowat Pirates, and we are here to locate 2 warring giants. And you are? What are you doing here? Brook returned the question. Answering their question should calm everyone's nerves. First, let's all drop our weapons. Brook nodded his head in agreement, and Bentham dropped his knife. He then jumped by his commander's side and warily looked at the new rival. The group now moved closer, sitting across a hot fire while they warily looked at one another. I am Pedro, and these are my companions, Zippo and Pekins. The rest of our crew are on our ship. We are called the Nox Expedition Party. But unfortunately the world government has called us the Nox Pirates. Pedro scratched the back of his head at this. Zippo was the polar bear mink, while Pekins was a mighty lion mink. Pleasure to meet you, I am Brook, and this is Bentham. Say, what were you fellas going out to explore? Being an expedition party. Brook put a pot on the heart of the fire, heating up some water for some drinks. Poneglyphs. Pedro and crew joined the camp of Brook, and they started discussing their adventures. We had a lead for one here, but it turned out to be empty. It is like that sometimes. Why poneglyphs? Brook made tea for everyone and started distribution. I heard that they were rare, but to actively seek them must be a heavy task. Yeah, it is, and most of the time the leads we get are empty, like here in Little Garden. And well, I met a great man years ago, one of which inspired me to go on my own adventure. He told me about the true history of the world, and I wanted knowledge. But the world government decided that our adventure is too dangerous, so we are now reluctantly the Nox Pirates. Funny how tea could influence one to tell their story. Though Brook knew to be careful, and he inspected every single one of the present members of the Nox Pirates. How so? He looked into their souls, and they were all generally good people. Brook was now at ease in the presence of the new rivals, which made Bentham relax a little. I see. Well, there's something that I want to ask you all. Brook stated, to which the group paid close attention. Have you heard of a pirate named Mujiwara? By now his tale should reach all corners of the blues. Oh yes, the ruthless pirate captain that has claimed nations such as Alabasta and Dressrosa into his fold. Very questionable man if you ask me. He also destroyed many buildings in Sabati. But I did read an article by Big News Morgans, he is worth $1 billion. Although he was talking, he felt that Bentham was staring at him with some animosity. Ah, is everything okay? Pedro asked. Captain Mujiwara is a great man, he made me into a better person, and so are my other friends. Bentham exclaimed, although Pedro raised his hands, realizing that he was in the presence of the members of Mujiwara's pirate crew. He mentally slapped himself, as earlier Brook did say that he was a member of the Strowats. All is well, the world is not fair to pirates. But regardless of your preconception of our captain, I wish to convince you to reconsider. Captain Mugiwara is the greatest man I have ever met. He amassed a grand armada under him, all of which follow him in admiration rather than fear. He has a way of inspiring even those with no motivation, especially pirates who have lost their way. He then looked directly into Pedro's eyes. Despite his hollow skeleton eyes, Pedro could feel his resolve. Mark my word, Nicky D. Luffy will be the king of pirates. Pedro could tell that Brook was very passionate about his pirate captain. If this man was so great, he wanted to meet him. Alright Brook, you sold me. I wish to meet this man. Pedro said, then he looked at Zippo and Peckham's. I agree, I wish to meet this man. So do I. Sure, but first we must locate two giants. We were sent on a mission to find them. Oh, you mean Dory and Brogy? Peckham's pointed in a far-off direction. We met them yesterday with cool blocks, but they have been fighting for 90 years. If you want to meet them we can bring you to them at sunrise. That would be great, thank you. And with that the group set up camp and went to rest for the night. Brook kept awake. For being a skeleton, he did not need as much rest as a normal human would. He didn't need to rest his muscles or worry about anything but his skeleton. Just thinking about his anatomy made him feel weird. Maybe he'll get a good doctor to explain his phenomena. He heard murmuring outside his tent, and he decided to eavesdrop. Brook closed his eyes and focused. His soul suddenly escaped from his body floating in the air. He then glided to where the conversation was occurring, and found Pedro and Peckham's talking to one another. How do you know? Peckham's was frustrated. That much was obvious. Brook floated a bit closer. What was it they were talking about? Just trust me on this, Peckham's. This Mugiwara sounds like the real deal. We can continue our expedition under his protection. Then we'll really be pirates if we join them. We're already dubbed as pirates. We're going to eventually bounty over our heads. What more reason should you want from me? What about our people in Zoo? Peckham's asked. An excellent point. Hey guys, you could both wake up an entire village with your yelling. Zippo joined the group, yawning as he had just woken up. Sorry Zippo, just knock some sense into Pedro. Peckham's argued. Yeah Pedro, I think it's the right call. Being under the umbrella of one as powerful as Mugiwara will help our mission in finding the Poneglyphs, learning the true history. To Zippo's words, Pedro beamed up and Peckham's looked dejected. But Peckham's is also right. By agreeing to this life, we have to really become pirates. It is for the right reasons. Pedro argued, believing that Mugiwara is their way of gathering the Poneglyphs. I get it, I do, but how about our people? By joining them we would be in service of Mugiwara. What if our people will need help? We won't just be able to leave and return to Zoo. Brook had heard enough, returning into his body and swiftly rejoining the conversation that he was eavesdropping on. You'll be able to go. In fact, more likely than not, Captain Mugiwara will back you up if trouble ever occurs in your land. They were astonished at his arrival. How long have you been listening? Peckham's did not feel his presence at all, which was a bit scary. Long enough. Brook just really wanted to ease their worries, but now he was stuck. What else could he say to them? Pedro decided to speak up for his group, not wanting any trouble. We'll need him, but there's no guarantee. The rest of our main party will return to our homeland to bolster our defenses, as joining the Stray Rats will of course provide us the tools we need for our search. Yes, and even better, one of our queens can decipher them, the Poneglyphs it is. Read the lost history impossible. All the scholars that could have died from sickness in O'Hara to this, the three minks were very interested. You'll see. Sunrise finally arrived and it was time to meet the two giants. Peckham's led the way while Zippo and Bentham discussed their life stories. Pedro and Brook talked about Gold D. Roger, and how Brook remembered him as a rookie, while he was still with the pirates. Though something interrupted their rather peaceful encounter. The loud eruption of the island's volcano covered the entire island. Once it blew, it was followed by an earthquake. Wait, no, it can't be an earthquake. This was more of footsteps as the group bounced at the rhythm of footsteps. Then like a thundering boom in the air, two objects clashed in a loud clang, and Brook immediately smiled. In panic, Zippo noticed the smile on Brook's face. What the hell are you happy about? We're about to die on this damned island. I have located him. Brook disappeared in a wake of cold air. He dashed through the large thick forest, and as he cleared it, he found them. The two massive giants caused a commotion as they engaged in a heated battle. Brook observed, watching as the giants clashed in epic fashion. They seemed to be enjoying themselves, each strike matched by the last. But what were they fighting about? Brook rubbed his chin and continued to watch. After some time, he decided to look into the stem of their battle, without interrupting their fight. He sat on the ground, the group finally catching up to him. SHS, he's about to go into soul form. Bentham stated, and everyone watched as Brook's soul escaped from his body. It then floated its way to the battling giants. What is going on right now? Peckham's and Zippo were physically freaked out. Who wouldn't? A skeleton man just released a green spirit from his body, and it casually floated towards the giants. You've worked on your swing there, Dory. You've taken my advice in using your back foot for leverage. I see, Brogy. A thundering laugh ensued, causing the air to tremble violently. As the two giants engaged in battle, clashing sword to axe, Brook sneakily went through their body, phasing through their soul and locating the cause of their 90-year-old battle. Megababa, the thundering laugh of Brogy the giant filled the air as he carried a massive seeking over his shoulder. He set it on the ground next to the massive bonfire. He sat across from his buddy and they laughed about their catch. Giant Yajisari also had a massive seeking, and the two just laughed and chatted about their day. The sun was just setting as the two giants continued to drink to their successful day. Hey mister. A little girl happened to stumble into their camp and was now looking at the two massive sea kings. Yes, little girl. Dory looked down at the little girl, curious as to what she wanted. Which is bigger? Asked the little girl, causing a 90-year dispute between the two giants. Whose seeking was bigger? Seriously, Brook was shot out of their souls and found himself floating around them. Dory noticed the specter in the air and thought it was a bat or something. So he swatted with his massive sword, although the blade only phased through Brook's soul form. Warrior spirit, commanded Brogy. He now looked in the general direction of Brook's soul form. At ease, my giant friends. Brook's real body did a peculiar thing as it floated toward his soul form. It then bonded with his soul, and he was now within his skeletal body. He was on eye level with the two massive giants, his feet emitting cold air to keep him afloat. Bentham witnessed this and noted that this was a new power. The trio of minks watched in amazement as the fifth commander bravely stared into the face of two towering giants. I am merely here to deliver a proposal. Is that so? What is this proposal, skeleton man? Dory asked, his eyes narrowing in annoyance for Brook's interruption. I have come to propose a position within the crew of the future king of pirates. To this, the two giants looked at one another and burst out laughing. They did not stop for a good minute before looking back at the skeleton. Do you know what this pirate king is? The one man to rule them all. Dory ripped Brogy. Is he the man who gathered all the treasure in the world? Added Brogy. I understand your concern. This was all new to me also not too long ago. I understand that you have been isolated on this island for 9 decades. But there was a pirate king, a man named Gold D. Roger, but he has since been executed for defying the world government. Now a new golden age of piracy was revolutionized from his death. And in this revolution, my captain, Minky D. Luffy will ascend to the title of Pirate King. This king of yours will not ascend to the title as this is not a possible feat even with your gold. Roger tails. Dory swung his massive blade at Brook. The giant was angry at such a ridiculous notion, and did not want to hear anymore. He wanted to shut down the skeleton from speaking anymore. Though, to the shock of everyone but Bethan, Brook had withdrawn his blade, clashing with the giant's blade. He did not move an inch, still floating in the air, looking directly into the eyes of the giant who swung his blade. Trust me, my captain will be king. The force of the swing could level mountains, and yet Brook stopped at mid-air without even moving an inch. Skeleton, you are interesting. You have gotten my attention, but that still does not change the fact that per the rule of Elbaf, me and Brogy must battle till one of us bests the other in combat. As disagreements in our homeland are settled in this manner, then how about I settle your dispute once and for all? Brook stepped several steps back, seemingly walking on air. He then swung his blade through the air, a green spectral force shot out of his swing and went through the giants. Suddenly the projection of their soul escaped from their gigantic bodies. What is this? Brogy asked as he looked at a spectral image of himself. Your soul. Brook then let their souls speak to truly reveal their innermost feeling. I do not remember our dispute, and yet I have to battle as it is Albus' law. I wish to return to the sea and go on an adventure with my best friend. Words from the soul of Dory which caused the real Brogy to look as sorry with tears in his eyes. What are we fighting about again? I can't really remember. Regardless, I wish this was over so we can travel around the world again. Oh well, the laws of Elbaf are absolute. I must fight my best friend. This time it was Brogy's projection that spoke. And to those words, the spectral soul form disappeared in thin air, and both giants burst into tears, hugging each other in the manliest way possible. Brook descended next to the minks and Bentham. The trio had a blank look on their faces. Well done, director. Bentham complimented Brook while he twirled in delight. Then the giants finished their reunification and looked down at Brook and his party. The minks waving up at their giant friends. Alright, skeleton man, we'll meet this Sturwhack captain of yours, but if the time comes that we do decide to join him, who will be the captain amongst us? Dory asked. It should be me. Brogy said jokingly, punching Dory in the forearm. The impact caused trees to rustle violently. Actually, Captain Luffy has already decided who will be heading your division. Oh, who might that be? Whoever it is, he must defeat me before I become subordinate to him. You know soon enough. Brook replied with a smile. Luckily they did not have to battle the giants, or it would have taken weeks before they could set out to Water 7. And to this, the end of the Little Garden saga is finally upon us. Well, not quite, as how would the giants travel with the 5th division? On the shore of Little Garden, a massive giant ship housing one particular giant arrived, waving at the people on the shore. Dory and Brogy looked at each other and figured now who their supposed captain would be. That brat, they exclaimed at the same time. While this was occurring, Pedro took the time to advise the rest of the expedition party to return to Zoo. Inform them of their plan, and know that they will be okay. The laughing hyena Mink took the lead of the minks aboard the Nox expedition party, and set course back to you. Now it was truly the end of the Little Garden saga. Lawyer 7 present time. Ah, Katakuri, it's been a while. How are you, Brook? I'm well, though I hope they have enough wood for our new recruits. What do you mean? Then a massive shadow from a massive person was cast over them. Katakuri looked up and finally understood what Brook meant. Ah. Hey Brook, where do you want us to go again? Another set of new figures arrived. There were several of them and they looked like business. Ah, Captain, I want to meet you guys. Here, let's go. Brook led the way. See you around, Katakuri. So how's interacting with the other Straw Hats so far? Brook joined the trio of minks who were getting acclimated to the people of the Grand Armada. They are amazing. Pedro commented, adjusting his hat to block the sunlight which glared over his eyes. Interesting bunch you got here, but when are we going to meet the one who reads poneglyphs? Was Zippo's answer. They went there to mingle as they were not really sure if they really wanted to stay. Relax Zippo, we have time. It's not like we can freely sail the seas anyway. Our pal Pedro just got a bounty of 382 million. Pekins added while showing everyone his crisp new bounty. Impressive, my bounty is measly 33 million beer. Brook found the captain's tent and went in, leaving the trio for a moment. He then returned to deliver some bad news. Looks like he retired for the time being, we'll catch him at a different time. Brook knew where his captain went and did not press on. The captain needed to have some rest as well. It has been some time since our initial introduction. We really need to sit down with your captain. Pedro stated. When they arrived, they met him, impressed by his outstanding stature and aura, and ever since they haven't had a chance to talk with him. Though it is a bit chaotic right now, we understand. Thank Pedro. Well, do enjoy yourself, I'll keep in touch. Brook said with a smile before leaving the trio. Once he left them, he found another set of trio, the giants which were assisting in constructing their own ships. Dory and Boji who challenged for headship in the giant pirates. Hadrian was twice the junior of the two former giant pirate captains, but he was definitely the most powerful of the bunch. Their dispute for leadership settled in the open sea, with Hadrian coming out on top. Though they both lost to a younger giant, that is by giant standard, Hadrian is the captain of the giant pirates. How did they find Hadrian? Well, the captain easily swayed the roaming giant to join with the news of reforming the giant pirates. And he immediately set course and found them in Little Garden. Amazing what a letter can do. Regardless, Brook left the giant pirates of his own accord and went to the dock where his ship was situated, where he found Bentham, happily helping hammer some nails on their ship with his own fist. Director, how does it go? Bentham greeted Brook with a massive grin, striking one of his signature poses. Well Bentham, now how is our ship coming along? Brook looked over the floor plan and found that it was as he would like it to be. Our grandest show pirate ship is as you requested, complete with a grand stage on the belly for entertaining the crew, preparation room, and of course, a massive inventory of hundreds of different instruments. Excellent, excellent. Brook admired his grandest show pirate ship. It was really coming along as he wanted. Brook saw Mihik, sitting on a lawn chair, his eyes closed as he enjoyed the fresh air. He then said goodbye to Bentham for the meantime and joined Mihik, sitting down on a lawn chair right next to him. Brook, graded Mihik, responded Brook as he settled on his position. How are the children? They're doing well. After a brief pause, Mihik knew what was coming. You checked on the young swordsman, didn't you? Brook was the one who saw a fresh wound across his left arm. The same young swordsman was the one to inflict it. This was all the way back in the East Blue. I did. Mihik once again paused. His friend died. She took her own life. He's devastated and wanted to come with me, but I told him not yet. He needs to be stronger. Cold of you, isn't it? It's better this way. He swore that the next time we meet, he will be able to get my respect. Mihik then rubbed his temple. He has it already, doesn't he? Yeah. And the duo enjoyed what's left of the sunlight, just sitting on the lawn chair and doing nothing. Marineford, you have got to be shitting me. Sengoku, angrier than he's ever been, slammed a stack of bounty posters across his table. You mean to tell me that Nijiwara gathered this massive force from right under our nose? I'm telling you, Fleet Admiral, we have to eliminate him. Sengoku was joined in his office by Admiral Akainu. We have to cut off his legs before he can truly run. What is going on with these damn pirates? First Big Mom trying to start a war, then damn super rookies emerging all over the place, and now Nijiwara making a case for Emperor of the Seas. I'll deal with it, Admiral Akainu offered. I'll kill the brat. We can't move yet, not without the blessing of the Gorosei. And from what I hear, Red-Haired proposed some interesting information that directed their attention away from Nijiwara. Fuck the Gorosei, let me go and deal absolute justice. Z would agree with me if he wasn't on his mission. Akainu exclaimed, his body turning into part magma from his outburst. What information did Red-Haired provide that is bigger than this fucking super rookie? He provided valuable information that the Marines need to address with urgency, which in turn diverted our resources to these things. Well, what is it? Asked Akainu. He gave the Gorosei information. What is this about? Admiral Kuzan entered the office, his attire ripped into pieces. He had just returned from his climactic battle with one, Charlotte Linlin. Admiral Kuzan, you've seen better days. Admiral Akainu addressed the Ice User. Kizaru hung back outside as he was told to wait. He had to follow his superior's orders or he was going to be demoted again. Half the unit you gave me is dead, but she left after the 7th day, got bored of toying with us, she said. Fuck, the fleet admiral stated. We can't make a move on Big Mom, her influence is too vast, and we would have to focus 60% of our resources to engage her in battle. This would open the door for the other emperors such as Whitebeard and Kaido, to make a play for Raftel. Finish what you were saying, Sengoku. What did you give Gorosei? The king demanded, not only at seeing Kuzan, but at Sengoku not finishing his statements. He gave the Gorosei information on. Even Akane and Kuzan could not believe what they were hearing. Impossible. In Nigashima, tears flowed freely through the eyes of a massive monster. Joker. A massive beast of a man sat drinking barrels of sake. He was mourning the loss of one of his business partners. Kaido, Big Mom attempted to enter Dressrosa in pursuit of Nijiwara, but the Marines stopped her. Kaido's commanding Calamity, King, was the one to report the information. Around Kaido were two other towering commanding figures, Queen and Jack. Kaido, let me deal with them. Jack offered, to which the Queen gave him a drop kick. Shut up, you fucking idiot, you don't have what it takes. The Queen said, to which the King nodded in agreement. The two Calamities did not treat Jack well, not at all. Fuck you both. Jack admitted, defying his two superiors. Although they were all brought to silence as they felt the Emperors coming from Kaido. All of you shut the hell up. For tonight, Kaido brought up his drink, finishing it in a few gulps. We mourn Joker. More tears escaped from him as he sounded like a wounded animal. Jack stared daggers into King and Queen, to which the duo returned with a cocky grin. But Kaido wasn't finished. Tomorrow, send the Flying Six to kill one or two of Linlin's children. This will teach her to stay in her territory. To that the three Calamities can agree to the plan. A massive smile on their individual faces. Suddenly, Kaido transformed into a dragon, flying swiftly into the air. And just because he felt like it, he launched a powerful breath attack to an unsuspecting traveling ship, annihilating it in a single breath. Joker. He continued to cry despite being a massive dragon, circling the sky, with crackles of thunderstorm along his scales. In the depths of Nigashima, a young child watched as their father went on a rampage. They swore to themselves that as soon as they get out, they will enact their revenge for their Odin. Moby Dick, what do you mean by this statue? Whitebeard was now hutching to several breathing assistance devices, a small army of nurses taking care of him. He was angry beyond reason. Pops, you have got to relax. Marco's gonna be mad if he found out you elevated your blood pressure. Thatch was apologetic, though he could not blame the outburst. After all, I've been to Fishman Island. They chose to betray me and join with that damned Nijiwara. Whitebeard started to cause crackles in the air. The sea around Moby Dick began to shake violently. What the hell is going on? Marco flew from his ship all the way to the Moby Dick. I'm here, Pops, what's wrong? Josie jumped the distance and landed on the deck, addressing the anger that his father was emitting. Nijiwara has claimed the Sun Pirates into their rank, and now Fishman Island has raised Nijiwara's flag, swearing allegiance to the Strawats. It was Thatch who explained this to the rest of the crew, causing a round of murmur to circulate. Pops, it's okay, we're really not in the position to wage war with other pirate crews at the moment, not with your health. We can't have the world learning that the great Whitebeard is deathly sick. This was coming from Vista, who arrived in a twirl of flower petals. I agree with Vista, Pops. This time it was Blaminko, the pocket-wielding devil fruit user. Not now. Come on, Pops, we should just lay low for now. We can gather our strength when you are healthy. The chorus of agreement came from the rest of the commanders within Whitebeard Pirates. No? Whitebeard slammed him on the deck of the Moby Dick. The force causes the clouds in the air to split right through the middle. I must show that my power is absolute, that no cocky youngster will unseat me, nor let evil powers, such as Linlin and Kaido, gain confidence and start terrorizing my territories, pushing through my boundaries. I can't let that happen, and I will make an example of Nijiwara. With all the years lost, succumbing to his sickness, Whitebeard had a lot of pent-up anger within him. Anger against the world for being cruel with his lack. Little did he suspect that it was caused by one of his sons. Pops, what are you saying? My sons, this is my command as your father. A brief pause before declaring his intention. We are waging war with the Strawat Pirates. Marco, Thatch, Josu, Vista and the rest of the commanders exchanged worried looks, but Whitebeard had a point. So with the war cry of their beloved Yonko, the Whitebeard pirate joined the war cry of the Emperor. Meanwhile, in the background of the celebration, Marshal D. Teach had a massive smile on his face. What about? No one but they would know. Then knew Whitebeard, one of his most trusted children, looked conflicted by this decision. He then faded into the crowd. Not one noticed his disappearance, for everyone was distracted. My sons, we must now fight. Gather all our forces, call all our allies. We are going to find the Strawats and bring the might of the Whitebeard Pirates through their damn throats. To this the Whitebeard Pirates joined the father in exclaiming their support. Though some remained skeptical of the consequence of a war of this magnitude. Water 7. It was now the next day as Luffy woke up to a wonderful sight. On his right arm was Bo Hancock, his very first love. Then on his right arm was Monet. Her green hair was resting across his arms, as she tried her hardest to inch as close to him as possible. To round out the members on his bed were Robin behind Hancock, then Baccarat and Viola beside Monet. He sat up stretching his arms. What a wild night that was. He wondered why it was only now that he discovered women, for they are amazing, definitely better than meat. So Luffy got up, letting his ladies rest for the time being. He had a long day ahead of him, many places to be, lots of people to meet. To think that 2 years ago he was in an alternate timeline, when where Kaido nearly killed him, but successfully killed all of his allies. Yeah, it was fucked up, but now, he was given this chance to right his wrongs. Luffy looked back at his adventures, realizing the wild ride he's been in. As soon as he put on his attire, he made his way outside, saying goodbye to the robot which guards the hotel. Good morning, Captain. He was greeted by Jem, who ran past him with a pile of wood on his back. Luffy waved and continued on, just looking around, meeting all the new recruits later. There are people he knew in his previous life, so all he really needed to do was sway them to his cause. Achieving true knowledge of the world will definitely make him the king of pirates, but really, all he wanted was the safety of his precious people. To do that he had to pad his crew into massive safety nets. These safety nets consist of some of the most formidable, powerful people that he knows. At least those which are attainable. There are some that will take some time before he can get to them. Or Captain. This time, it was Matchvies who created him. The hulking powerhouse was a welcomed addition to his armada. Before, he was a nuisance, but now he really likes the guy. He waved at the man who was accompanied by Dice, a member of Guild's former crew. Luffy continued his walk when he spotted a woman in her 20s, hungrily going through plates. He knew exactly who it was, and Luffy decided to welcome her on. Never breathe in between bites. Luffy approached her. He immediately noticed her skimpy attire. Shut the hell up, you don't know me. Responding to the girl, she continued to eat everything on her plate with ease. Her appetite was insatiable, and yet Luffy was not bothered. Sure, my name is Luffy and welcome to the Grand Armada. Whatever, I just want to meet this Nijiwar, see what he's about. She took a massive bite off of a drumstick, and then pointed it at Luffy. What are you doing here, Luffy? I just believe in the cause. Luffy did not tell the truth, but he didn't lie either. He was Nijiwar, but he wanted to mess with her for a bit. But what's your name? It's not fair that you know mine and I don't know yours. Joy Bonnie, the baddest bitch in all the seas. She then stopped eating as she felt full, a mountain of plates in her wake. See you around, Luffy, take care of my tab for me. Bonnie gave him a kiss on the cheek and ran away. The shopkeeper tried to race after her with no luck. Luffy began to take out his purse full of gold coins, but the shopkeeper insisted that it was okay, anything for Captain Luffy. He thanked them kindly but still left 3 times the amount of Bonnie's tab, and got to help the local businesses. This woman was trouble, but the captain is taking a particular interest in her jewelry. Bonnie. The 3rd unit recruited her by finding her in her home sea in the South Blue. With their unit, Lucci could afford to split his people into different teams to locate the targets in the list. Virgo was the one to locate her, heavily disguised for he was hiding from the Marines. It was easy to sell her on meeting the captain, as she was interested in treasure. Plus she was also interested in what he wanted from her so badly. Luffy left the restaurant and made his way to a nearby bar. It was there where he found another new recruit. You must be him, huh? When Lucci came to me, I didn't believe that it could be possible. When Lucci was in Sifrapol training, he was heartless. And to see him with a heart. Well, I just had to meet you. A long-nosed fellow acknowledged him without turning from his spot. The man wore a black hat, paired with black jumpsuit. He had a pink handkerchief over his breast pocket. In his hands was a cup of iced tea, and yet he held it like it was alcohol. Am I who you thought I'd be? Luffy sat beside the square-nosed man. He then asked for a cup of ice water, something to keep his wits. You're definitely shorter than I thought. Scrawny even. I just can't believe that Lucci would follow someone else, and totally give up his hunger for chaos. My name is Kaku, by the way. I know who you are, I made that list. For a secret organization, Sifrapol sure can't keep any information from the likes of you. I guess not. Well, it was nice meeting you. I think I'll hang around, but I take orders from Lucci. I got it, keep in mind, he takes orders from me. Luffy gave Kaku a smile, to which the former Sifrapol agent scratched his head. Yaha. And with that Kaku left, leaving Luffy to finish his drink. Very strong, yet his allegiance could be anywhere. He will also be a powerful ally. Kaku. Lucci found Kaku in a bar in a similar manner as to how Luffy met with him. Kaku was found while in the middle of an espionage mission. Lucci offered him a way out, and Kaku was immediately intrigued. So Kaku dropped his mission and left with Lucci. He was one of the first agents to disappear from the Sifrapol agency. It was strange, for this time, Luffy was joined at the bar by a blue-eyed, blonde-haired woman wearing glasses. May I sit here? She asked. Luffy knew she meant business. Sure. Luffy knew immediately who it was. He then looked at her and found that she was studying him. So, you are Nijiwara then? She joined Luffy and got her own drink, a glass of lemonade. I saw you speaking with Kaku. Yes, I am. And you are. He knew the answer, but it was only polite. Khalifa. By the way, how do you know we are not here for Sifrapol? That we did not take your crew up for their offer so we can infiltrate your division. Khalifa was very calculating, analyzing his every action to read what he is about. She was also straight to the point, just as he remembered. I'll tell you what, if you were spying on me, then I'll figure it out eventually. Plus, what do I have that I want hidden from the world government? Luffy was the one to get up this time, leaving a pouch of gold on the bar, of course, more than what the glass of water was worth. Caulifla was taken aback by the rejection of the Straw Hat captain, but she was now more interested than ever. Mugiwara is fascinating. Caulifla spoke to a recording device. Day 7, made contact with the Straw Hat captain. She then waved her hand over the bar counter and cleaned everything. Where her hands touched, the surface of the bar was spotless. Beautiful but deceitful, perfect for his crew of intelligence gathering. Caulifla. This time, it was Galdino who found Caulifla. He found her on a tip by Lucci on her last known location. She was sitting along a bench waiting for her contact when Galdino took the spot. Galdino went on and offered Caulifla a position. She thought about it for some time, and eventually conceded to her curiosity. She agreed to go along with him to possibly join the Straw Hats as a spy. Even she will not give an answer to that. Mugiwara, right? The ever-so-stylish underworld crime lord walked alongside the Straw Hat captain. He puffed his cigar while having both hands behind his back. When I heard from your messenger that you're interested in my services, I could not believe it. You mean to tell me that the same man who took down Joker is interested in me? He is not my messenger but one of my crewmates. Right then, well Mugiwara, I am here. What is so grand that I should stay? I got it. Tell you what, you can challenge me in one thing, and if you win, you take over the Grand Armada. Knowing full well the man's ambition, Luffy took advantage of his prior knowledge, in offering the entire fighting force of the Straw Hat Armada, if he won in whatever he wanted to play. In terms of confidence, the Straw Hat captain was not lacking one bit. At first, the man was taken aback by the bold request of the Straw Hat captain, and yet his confusion was replaced by a smile. Who would pass up an opportunity to take over such a massive armada? But if you lose, you have to work for me. Luffy finished his sentence, to which the underground powerhouse agreed. Alright, you drive a hard bargain, so here is my game. His body suddenly had openings like castle doors, and Luffy was immediately surrounded by 10 soldiers who enlarged once going out of his body, each pointing a gun at him. I'll just defeat you and really take your entire fleet. Nice try, Beach, but Luffy released a small wave of his conquerors, knocking out the 10 soldiers around him. The power was enough to make Beach fall on both knees. You're 10 years too young to even think of challenging me. Once Luffy finished his words, Beach fell flat on his face, overwhelmed by Luffy's conquerors. The Straw Hat captain coolly walked away from the passed-out bodies of the underworld crew. Very strong player in the underground world. Why would Captain be interested in this man? Capone, Beach. The underground world has been in turmoil for some time. Joker's death caused a massive black hole in the distribution section of the underground world. Capone Gang Beach was going to get in on the action, but was instead met with Law and Corazon. He was surprised to see the brother of Doflamingo join the same man who killed him. He was going to kill me anyway. Corazon explained. Their conversation was in broad daylight in the middle of a busy street, and yet they seemed to just be staring at each other. It was due to Corazon's devil fruit ability. It's true, I was there. Law tagged along with Corazon as they made a good team, plus he trained him on how to use his new devil fruit ability. While the proud new owner of the Opope know me. I know you, Trafalgar Law. I got my contacts. His influence was wide, which is why Capone was so damn dangerous. Law took a heavy sigh when his real name was not revealed. Did Capone know that too? Huh. Beach opened his eyes, revealing his army behind them, an aged cigar over his lips. What do you say, boys? Wanna go mess around with pirates instead of the underworld? Cheers erupted from within the body of the living fortress. Beach was on board, though his motive was to overtake the Grand Armada. Luffy then passed by a tall man, with a hairstyle that resembled the hair of a bull. Luffy smiled, remembering the time he had to take himself to the next level, in order to defeat the door user. Not a word was uttered between them as they passed by each other, the bull-headed man not noticing that the Grand Armada captain just passed him. Bueno, hold up. A dark-skinned man with stylish facial hair and long braided hair ran after Bueno. He also passed the Straw Hat captain without noticing him. Ah, Jabber, have you met him yet? Nope, but who cares, we're really here for Lucci. Jabber put his hands in the back of his head. And the two continued to walk. I'm glad you two are on board. Luffy commented to himself, moving along his journey throughout Water 7. But how am I going to ensure that you gain your destined fruit abilities? His abilities are perfect for infiltration, sort of similar to Bully. He'll definitely be a valuable ally. Bueno entered through the front door of his safe house, one arm carrying groceries. He had to look normal despite being on a deep undercover mission. Bueno immediately realized that his window was open. Two figures sat on the other side of the room, playing a card game of all things. He knew this guy from training. He will be an interesting guy to convince. Jabber. Hey Bueno. One of the men was Jabber, who sat across from a familiar figure, one of which he thought was wiped out by Cipherpole. Hey. This time it was Lucci who spoke, a cigarette over his mouth. Say you wouldn't want to come join me and become a pirate, would you? Bueno dropped all of the groceries, tears welling up in his eyes. He never thought he'd see his friend again. I'll go where you go, Lucci. Bueno stated with conviction. Rolo cared for the young Lucci as a brother despite his early mishaps, so did Jabber. The two took Lucci under their wing once they joined the academy all those years ago. That's what I said. Jabber joined in, dropping a stray flush with 9, 10, Jack, Queen and King. Although Lucci had a smirk on his face when he dropped royal flush beating his older competitor. Welcome to the Straw Rat Grand Armada, said Lucci with a smile. Luffy met all the new recruits, some knew who he was, some did not. He had a grin over his face as his plan was coming along nicely. Though he felt weird, something didn't seem right. His last stop was the dock, where his ship was being made. In his time in Water 7, he met Tom's apprentice, Iceberg, and Cutty Flam. Though he knew Cutty Flam as his super cyborg shipwright, Frankie. Now how exactly did he gain the trust of Tom and gain the favor of the entire Water 7 island? Well, 1.5 months ago Water 7, Luffy and his queens arrived at Water 7 after a 2-week trip. In his company were Hancock, Robin and Viola. And their first stop was Tom. This is crazy if you ask me. We'll need billions for this project. Alright, I understand. But can you start the skeleton of the ships with what money I have now? Then we can talk once we have the money. Are you sure about this, Nijiwara? We can do as you ask, but what if you don't get us the money? Then that's just wasted resources and time. I guarantee that no such thing will take place. Tom was scheduled to be executed due to his refusal to give Spandam the blueprint for the ancient weapon Pluton. He was set to be freed by the judge for helping make the Aura Jackson, but instead he earned his freedom by creating the sea train. That is until he bumped heads with the smug new head of Cipher 9. Spandam hired people to steal the ships created by Frankie, and launched an attack on Water 7. Tom took responsibility for the crime and was now sentenced to death. Frankie attempted to intercept the sea train but was ultimately run over, left for dead. But Luffy intercepted at just the right time, where Robin and Viola took care of Frankie, bringing him to the nearest hospital and ensuring that he survived. Luffy and Hancock took care of the guards along the sea train and retrieved Tom. Who the hell are you people? Spandam cowered at the arrival of Luffy and Hancock. All of the guards stationed along the sea train were either turned into stone or beaten to a pulp. The 4 in the train carts were the only people who remained conscious for the encounter. Nijiwara, what are you doing here? I'm saving you, of course. Luffy commented with Hancock removing Tom's bindings. Luffy turned his attention to the poor excuse for a human being, and slowly approached him. Spandam continued to back down, trembling in his heel. He then left trails of yellow liquid on the ground as he quite literally pissed himself. Please, spare me. He fell on both knees, his clothes soaking in piss. I'm just following orders. Spandam. Luffy stopped going forward, standing over the kneeling Cipher leader. I should kill you, I should, but I won't, and if you ever step out of line again, I will find you, and I will kill you with my own hands, understand? To this Spandam teared up, crawling on the ground and grabbing Luffy by his shorts. Thank you, oh thank you. But Luffy wasn't going to let him off easy. He delivered a powerful kick straight through the guts of Spandam, sending him through the roof of the sea train, and launching Spandam far through the ocean. If he doesn't survive, oh well. Bye. Tom was at a loss for words. Because you don't deserve to die, Tom. You are a better man than Spandam will ever be. With that, Tom was rescued. The entire Water 7 was indebted to Luffy, and Cutty Flam only lost his limbs, which was now replaced by mechanical ones. It could have been worse. Thus Luffy became the savior of Water 7, which jump-started the development of his requested ships. He smiled at the memory and found Cutty Flam. Why Frankie, how are you? Luffy went to join the shipwright who was working tirelessly on his ship. Ah Captain, you know, with you calling me Frankie all the time I think I'm starting to like it. Cutty Flam, although better known as Frankie, commented, to which Luffy gave him a smile. By the way Captain, as far as your ship goes, the crew have been working hard on it, and it's almost ready. You know, when you proposed the plan for your ship, I could feel the ship as if it's part of my heart. It was as if you were digging into my deepest desire and figuring out the ship that I wanted to create. Frankie led him to the bay, where the familiar lion head was on the front of the ship. It looks beautiful. Luffy inspected the ship, looking over its details, just as he remembered it. Yeah, well, it helped a lot that you gave us so much money to work with. I never saw Sir Tom grant a massive loan at a promise, but you are our savior. Frankie remembered the recent events and smiled. Hey Frankie, wild question here, but by any chance would you like to travel the sea? This way you can always watch the Thousand Sunny in order to keep it in top shape. Thousand Sunny, I love that name, it's super. He then rubbed his chin. Now his arms were noticeably cyborg arms. Unfortunately Luffy didn't get to him on time. Alright Nijiwara, I will talk to Iceberg and Sir Tom first and take you up for your offer after. How about it? Sounds good to me. Luffy then shook the hands of the cyborg now known as Frankie. I'll be seeing you around. With that Luffy moved on. The sun was finally beginning to set as his day was a long one. The Thousand Sunny was coming along nicely. Now Luffy began to think, where would the shipwright best work? Possibly the 6th division. Though his thoughts were interrupted when suddenly a massive explosion occurred in the distance. He looked at the area where it happened. Swirls of blue and yellow flame launched all the way into the sky. Luffy immediately knew who it was, but why is he here? Without a second to waste, Luffy ran to the disturbance. What he saw was the bodies of Jen, Kurobi, and Tanaka were laid out. Then there was also Monet, halfway covered in snow as she was contradicting the flame with her abilities. She was struggling while the man continued to yell for Mugiwara that was him. What did he want with him? Luffy immediately panicked, seeing money in the state that she was. Anger filled him and he dashed straight to the floating figure. He grabbed the man by the neck and immediately slammed him on the ground. Luffy's grip was tight, and no matter how hot the man's flames were, the blue and yellow swirls were no match for Luffy's absolute fury. What the hell do you think you are doing? Luffy's arms were covered in, his eyes gazing deep into the man's soul. Crackles of his conquerors pressured the phoenix further. In that moment, Marco, in all his years with Pops, never experienced an outstanding war such as this, and it was then that he immediately knew Mugiwara was the real deal. And yet the phoenix was defiant. Let me go, he said between breaths. Pops is going to kill you all if you don't hear you. The ease at which Mugiwara held him down was scary. To this Luffy let go, his eyes widening. The phoenix which he held down out of anger, took a moment to catch his breath. What did you say? Luffy asked, in all of his planning, what he did not anticipate at all. Right while Luffy let go of Marco's throat, his commanders arrived, surrounding the lone white-beard pirate. Bo Hancock was immediately by his side, with Viola and Robin going to the injured. First Commander Katakuri arrived with 2 donut rings, his hands ready to swing at the captain's command. Monet's fallen figure caused Katakuri became enraged. She was a member of his division. Second Commander Mihek was inches from piercing Marco's heart. You were lusting for some blood. Third Commander Lucci stood by Katakuri, his arms crossed and his eyes intently watching Marco. Fourth Commander Arlong had his newly acquired golden trident ready to throw. He found Kurobi on the ground, which angered him greatly. Fifth Commander Brook floated in the air, emitting cold air to keep him afloat. He looked down at Marco, with the intent of battling him if he attempted to flee. Sixth Commander Crocodile joined Brook in the air, swirling in sand. Newly recruited commanders also joined the fold. Seventh Commander Guild arrived adjusting his suit in case he was needed. He noted that Tanaka was down, which irked him. Eighth Commander Hadridan stood over the group, looking down at Marco with his arms crossed. Does it get this interesting? Kishishishi the ninth Commander Gecko Mori arrived, with his scissor blade on both hands. His was interesting, and it took the combined effort of Lucci and Mihek to bring him in. Fuck, that was a warlord. How was he going to get access to this person? Gecko Warrior. A man leaned on the former Shichibukai. His shit-eating grin was massive. The newly appointed 10th commander of the Strowat Armada, specially requested by the captain himself, former member of Roger's Pirate, the greatest of them all but one, the only Boogie the Clown. His recruitment was easy once Scaldino figured him out. He just buttered him up and he was immediately on board. Get the hell off me, Boogie, said Warrior by removing Boogie on his shoulder, causing the bar user to fall on his face. You'll pay for that, claimed Boogie, shooting up immediately and threatening Warrior with his knives. What's up, Mugiwara? Been some time, eh? A complete contrast to when he first met the clown all the way back in the East Blue. This Boogie was more of what he remembered back in his timeline, and Luffy was happy about that. This man was a former member of Roger's Pirate, so he needs to be cautious. Boogie the Clown. Marco looked around at the 10 commanders of Mugiwara's crew and coughed some blood, his airway finally opening up from the tight grip. Pops Mugiwara, he wants your blood for taking his territory. Luffy knew Marco long enough to know it was no bullshit, but to wage war on him. This was getting crazy. He wants to make an example of you for stepping on his toes, so to speak. Marco could speak a bit clearer now. He looked at the other commanders. Despite being powerful, he managed to piss off an entire armada by trying to warn them of impending doom. Sorry about you people, they attacked me first. Fuck. Luffy then brought out a golden mini-den in his pocket, and suddenly, his voice could be heard in all the speakers all over the island. Emergency meeting, be at the hall in 10 minutes. He looked at his commanders who all nodded their head and left for the hall, his queens following shortly after. After declaring his announcement, voices from all over the island buzzed in excitement as to what the meeting was about. People began to rush into the hall, and Luffy looked at Marco. Come Marco, I'm going to need you there for this. You're seriously considering a war with Pops, are you? Marco asked, joining Luffy in the walk to the meeting hall of Water 7. My divisions are ready, my manpower is ready. Our ships are ready. Luffy looked at Marco with a smile. He then held the double door before opening it. So why not knock some sense into the old man to retire? Luffy opened the door, revealing the entire fighting force of one Mugiwara, and Marco couldn't help but think, damn, thank you all for coming. Luffy made his way to his seat, Marco walking beside him. This urgent meeting was called out of necessity. Luffy took his seat next to Hancock. He then addressed the entire Grand Fleet. All were from different walks of life. They were all united under his ambition, under his flag. For we are going to war with Whitebeard. The Strowat Grand Armada, with the first commander of the Whitebeard Pirates as witness, has returned the declaration of war with one of the Emperors of the Sea. Mugiwara Minky D. Luffy vs Whitebeard Edward Newgate. Thanks for watching my video, and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic. Link is in the description. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.